What do you say, girl? I think it's about time we turn this thing on out. My name is Ben, and this is the Urbstead. And today, I'm going to show you our chickens. They're clucking nuts. I'll introduce them to you one by one. If you've never had chickens yourself, come along and see what they do in the backyard. If you own chickens, come along and laugh, because you know exactly what they're doing. And hey, if you don't like chickens, well, you're wrong. First on the list, we have Whitey, named by my daughter, and we have Bok Bok, also named by my daughter. This one here is doing what we're calling dust bathing. She's going to ruffle her feathers, kind of puff herself up a lot, and then she will shake back and forth vigorously, swiping with both of her wings one at a time on each side to get dust up into her feathers. And this will help remove the pests and different mites, perhaps, if there are any on her body. Okay, I was corrected. Let me correct myself. She's not doing that. She's joking on me right now because she's taking a nap. Good night, sweet princess. Aha! Now here is one of the triplets. This hen and her two sisters are called Charlie. Why do we call them all Charlie? I don't know, but they all look the same, and there's no way I'm going to remember which one is which. So she's Charlie, the one behind her is Charlie, and there's probably one more Charlie. Oh yes, they're both back there. Aha. Partners in crime. Charlie, Charlie, and Charlie. Snooping. Now, as you may know, this is the part of our yard that has sweet, sweet mulberries hanging above it. And with a flick of the wrist, they drop to the floor. And the chickens come flocking. Now let's watch as they mercilessly destroy this poor, poor mulberry. Charlie, how could you? Her jaws are red with the blood of her enemies. All right, I'm being dramatic. I love having these mulberry trees back here because they're kind of like free food for the chickens. One thing you'll have to keep an eye out though, because they gorge themselves on these mulberries, is that their poop is as black as tar. So that's pretty gross. So I do have to be cautious when I'm walking back here with whatever shoes I'm walking in. I don't want to walk in the house with them because that black will just get anywhere and everywhere. Stepping on a mulberry, even before digestion, is going to make my feet disgusting. And I do it frequently. My feet are black for weeks. So try to wear shoes. Try to watch where you step. Don't walk on carpet. Easy. Back to the introductions. We got Big Red. She's called Big Red because she's red. Is she the biggest? I don't know. I don't think so. But she used to be a sister of Boss Lady, and unfortunately, Boss Lady is one of the 3 chickens that we have lost. So you will not be seeing her in this video. So this one we call Twitch. Why? Well, because she's kind of gross. She's got like extra toes sticking out of her talons. She's got weird gobbly things on her face that are just not there on the other chickens. And yeah, she kind of looks like greasy oil stains because there's like an illuminance to her feathers that make her look kind of greenish black. Also, if you ever play League of Legends, Twitch the Plague Rat, boom. She is the embodiment of gross. All right, I just got pecked on my finger because Oliver thought I was feeding her, which is wonderful. So next, the twins, Oliver and Oliver. Now, the main reasoning behind these two, and you'll see they both look the same. The reasoning is that they both lay olive eggs. That's just the kind of chicken that they are. They are newish to us, really faithful producers, and you can tell they're actually super healthy and strong. The combs on the top of their heads are huge. These two are pretty feisty. Love watching them, but they definitely don't let me watch them as closely as the others do. So now let's see. Who else is on the list? Old Faithful. This is Dita's favorite. Her name is Queenie. She is a green queen. She's an Easter egg layer, and she lays light blue eggs for us, but sort of a pastel-y light blue. She's also extremely docile, and she'll often let you pick her up if you just walk up behind her. But if you're not quick about it, she scurries off. So Dita probably loves her the most because she's the one that Dita is able to pick up almost every time without fail. She also is our resident brooder, meaning oftentimes I will come out to the nest, or the coop, and I'll find her just sitting on the nest. And she'll sit on the nest for 21 days, up to 21 days. And she'll even starve herself to death because she's brooding. So I don't know all the ins and outs here of broodiness, but I do know that green queens themselves have a tendency towards broodiness. And I know that the effect is that the chicken will instinctively lay on an egg thinking that it's fertile, and knowing that if it gets off, the chicken inside will die. So it stays on this egg until it hatches. All of our eggs are infertile, which we want, but this means that Queenie will stay on the eggs, thinking that she's doing a good thing. Got a bug. Thinking that she's doing a good thing, but could end up killing herself. So what I have to do is from time to time, I'll take her and I'll put her in timeout, which I use this dog cage, place it in our greenhouse with food and water for about 3 nights. After those 3 nights, she's almost always better. She just runs around the yard or runs back with the chickens and doesn't go directly to the eggs. If I don't wait long enough though, as soon as I let her out, she zips around, zips straight in, and goes to the roosting box and stays there. Have you ever dealt with broody hens? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so I did the Charlies, I did the Olivers, I did Twitch, Queenie, Big Red, I did Bok Bok, and I did Whitey. I think that just leaves our goofball. The one that we never thought would do anything because, well, she's got a genetic defect. But she's pretty cool. Here she is. This is Crossy. And right off the bat, you should be able to tell she's way smaller than the other chickens. But part of that might be her breed. I'm not totally sure. But I do know a big part of it is that she cannot eat as much food as the rest. And why? It's because she's got a cross beak. She was born with a beak defect where her jaws aren't really lined up. And this causes her beaks to just grow and grow and grow. Whereas normal chickens, they would wear their beak down by grinding it against the top and bottom. Here, though, she doesn't have that. So Julia and I have to pretty regularly come out and with nail grinders grind her beak back, being very careful not to hit the wick and cause her any pain, but sometimes she gets pretty agitated and fights it. So what this allows her to do is then allows her to get her face deeper or closer to the food and actually consume the food that she tries to peck at. The pecking she's doing right now is largely not going to get her any food, which you can kind of see she looks a little frustrated at. So she has to twist her head, she has to do this and that. Really, what she needs is a pile of food that's finely ground that she can sink her face into so that her beak's not getting in the way of her eating. Now, I call her a goofball because she knows what she needs to do to eat. And look at her. So she goes nuts. And I want to show you how she eats her food. Boom. That's how she eats her food. So I'll go ahead and I'll give you an example here. I'm so glad you did that. So every night I come out here, I feed the chickens. I know I have to wait a second. When I get this scoop, I don't open the door yet because I know if I open the door immediately, I'm going to get her claws directly in my face. But this is how she eats. So crossbeak is definitely something, if you're a breeder, you probably want to breed out in terms of getting rid of these chickens. But for us, we want her to lay eggs, and we're okay with being a retirement home if she's not very good at laying. But I will say that after some recent efforts to grind her beak down so that it's more usable for her, we have gotten some eggs from her, and they are amazing. So I said that Queenie does sort of a pastel-y light blue. Crossy, it's like electric light blue. It is so cool. So, is it worth it? I think so. Also, it's kind of cool. I don't know. Chickens are fun. They're crazy. They just bop around and dig up stuff and kick and scream and poop. It's great. Here's one of the coolest things that the chickens can do in a homestead permaculture setting, and that's basically tilling. They till, and I'll show you what they're doing. So you've heard of the phrase chicken scratch, and you know, it's so obvious to know, unless you have chickens, you don't really have a context for what that means, but look at this. They're just scratching up the earth. They're digging for bugs. They're providing their own food for themselves. Now, this area happens to be great for them because there's the compost pile back there. I have it covered with plastic so they don't scratch that. But everywhere else, this ground is just chock full of worms. Of course, you're saying, you know, we want to keep the worms for your own use and for the decomposition of this woody area. Well, yes, that's true, but I also want eggs, and I also want to use and have to feed them less. So there's a ton of stuff, bugs, down here in this ground, and I'm not worried about running out. But what I am happy about is that these chickens are getting free-range food as well as supplemental chicken feed. So we let our chickens out. We try to keep monitored. We try to keep an eye on them a little bit. They don't fly over into the back, which is great. We have to keep the gate closed over there so that they don't get out and eat or kick up the wrong stuff, which they have. But we really like to let them go ahead and just find whatever food they can. If you want to have chickens for yourself, or if you've ever thought about having chickens, first of all, I think you should go for it. Just right off the bat. I think that everyone should try owning chickens. If you're in that camp, you need to take some steps first. The first step is finding out if your city or town allows chicken. So far, my own experience is that the city we live in does in fact allow livestock, like chickens. The city I grew up in, though, does not allow chickens unless your yard is over 3 acres. And even still, in both places, roosters are not allowed. And I think that's pretty common. Roosters are a noise nuisance. I mean, they're loud and they're mean, which they kind of need to be. They're the protectors of the group. So, does your city allow chickens? Yes or no? If your city does allow chickens, there probably are some regulations that they ask you to follow. So, figuring out those is the next step. For us, it was sort of a trial by fire, but we knew that eventually we wanted to be able to be certified by the city to do it. So we sort of started out without really knowing the rules and regulations beyond the fact that we could in fact have the chickens. So we got the chickens and we did what we could and what we thought was the right steps. But I would warn you away from that method. The only reason I say that is because we lived for a little while there before we knew how we had to have it for regulations, with a mess of pests and rodents, and a couple chickens died, and I just don't recommend it. I know it seems kind of stuffy to follow the rules, but in fact, the rules are here not only to protect you as the homeowner and you as the homesteader, but also the chickens. So they don't want to be eating rat poop, which is what will happen if you don't protect against rats. The rats will poop in their food as they eat it. I love this. They follow. any new person, especially the queen chicks. Dita loves the chickens, and they love following her around. I'm sure it's because she feeds them all the time, but it's cute. Okay, so step 1, you made sure that the city allows it. Step 2, you found out how you should go about doing it. Step 3, at that point, you can really decide, do I actually want chickens? Do I want farm fresh? Do I want farm fresh eggs? Do I want delicious, tasty yolks that are just so rich and amazing? Yes, the answer is yes. But really, deciding whether or not you want to have the responsibility to take care of living animals. If you have pets, you know, if you've had chickens growing up, you know, you do have to wake up early or you have to feed them probably once a day. And again, depending on how you do things, changes what the term feeding means, but you will probably have to do some effort to feed your chickens. Depending on where you live, if it gets cold enough to freeze, you also will have to combat the fact that they drink water, and water freezes somewhere below the freezing point. Shocker. Now, because chickens are the way they are, and because they're animals that create warmth themselves, the inside of a coop typically is a little warmer than ambient. So, you know, if it's like right around 30 and you put a nice warm, fresh water out for them in the morning, it might not be frozen, but then again, it might be. You have to check. And when it gets really cold, you will have to put water out frequently. You want to keep your chickens alive. You also have to know that during the winter months, when there is less sun, the chickens lay less, maybe even not at all. And it's less to do with the cold and more to do with the amount of light that they get. Finally, if you know you want chickens and you know you can have chickens and how to have chickens, my question is, why don't you have chickens? Is it because they stink? Yeah, you have to deal with that. And yeah, you can literally bag their poop and do certain amounts of poop, at least in my city, in the trash every week. But I think that's kind of a waste because it's fertilizer. Do you have to compost it? Yeah, that's something that you'll have to learn how to do or get acquainted with and have a utility for. But again, we're talking about awesome things that you should be trying anyways, if gardening is in your purview. And if not, you know, maybe this is just something that you have to put up with. If you have a gardener friend, maybe they're like, yeah, I want chicken poop, but I can't afford to have chickens, or whatever the reason is. If you want chickens and you found out that you can and you know how to do it, I would encourage you to make the leap. Try it out. And if it's not for you, then it's not for you. If you get your eggs from a nice hatchery that is certified, you know that they are not coming with any sort of diseases, which is really beneficial and sometimes a requirement. If the worst case scenario happens and you don't end up liking it, it's reversible. You can deconstruct things. You can get rid of the chickens one way or another. You can make chicken soup. They probably won't be very tasty in terms of meat, but they'll make great stock. Yeah, free eggs. I mean, you have to consider the cost of feed, depending on how you do it, but largely free eggs. They pay for themselves here for us, which is great. You can sell it. Sell your eggs to friends or donate for tips. Do I love chickens? I love chickens. Did I ever think I would own chickens and have them in my own yard? Absolutely not. Zero chance. But here we are, and I love it. And it's clucking amazing. That joke doesn't get old, okay? It's great. These chickens are awesome. I love having chickens. I think that chickens are a useful resource around the house. I think that the responsibility of taking care of something is helpful. I think having responsibility is a good thing. And I think that it teaches you a lesson about shepherding and managing the land in a way that is give and take, because these chickens are here for a reason, to do something for our family, and they do it well. And not only do they do it for our family, but they do it because that's their nature. So we're allowing them to live out the nature that is in them. We're providing for them a nice house, safe, food, all the things that they could want, and we're reaping the reward of how they were created. So, chickens, you should do it. That's all I gotta say. So you've met all our chickens. We have 11 chickens, and they play a big role here at the Urbstead. They keep us in eggs, which Julia uses for birthday cakes. We use for bread. We're excited to try out using it for making our own homemade pasta. And, you know, maybe our neighborhood does enjoy homemade eggs sometimes. We have quite the excess from day to day. So that's something that I think a lot of people are excited about. Thanks for coming by the Urbstead today and taking a walk around with me and checking out these chickens. If I've rubbed off on you in any way in terms of wanting to get chickens yourself, follow the tips that I gave you, and hopefully I get to see you owning your own chickens. As always, grow on.